Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian, here with my boy B. And today we're going to be talking about climbing that good old ladder, specifically the corporate one. So we'll talk about climbing the corporate ladder and the narrative that comes with that. Is it a good thing? Is it not? Is it desirable? Why is it desirable? We'll talk about all that. As we get into it, I would like to be, if you're cool with it, just kind of give where we're at job-wise right now in our lives to kind of level the conversation of climbing said corporate ladder. And I think you will be very prevalent in this conversation. Kind of, you've in the last couple of years kind of entered that realm and are quote unquote climbing this ladder. Whereas I am aspiring to enter the corporate realm and climb this ladder we're talking about, which will play into this discussion. So with that, I guess, I'll kind of kick it off with, I'm currently in the military and I will be getting out here shortly. And I look to enter into corporate. I don't know like what industry yet. That's been, everybody that in my life has been asking like, hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Still don't know. But I am making steps and doing some research to narrow down what I am going to do. More specifically, like what industry I'll go in, not specifically like job exactly. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about corporate. Never done it, but super excited about it. Got a lot of good friends, you being one, that are in that realm and can speak to it, and probably that have played into my influence of wanting to experience that as well. But this will definitely play into our conversation. I'm already like laughing about it just based on some of the things I predict we'll say and kind of where I want to take my personal life. But yeah, I have no corporate experience, but again, that will be my near future. So not too much for me to say on it other than that. I do have the personal stories I hear from people. Maybe on paper, corporate always seems like a good thing, right? Or it's branded as maybe even the American thing to do or a good career choice, which I want to unpack as to why. And I'd probably be lying if I said there's not some element of me that, wants that good branding or part of the image is appealing. There's some that will naturally come with it and climbing that ladder because I want to get to a certain level, hopefully by the time it's all said and done. But without saying too much, that's kind of where I stand on my view on corporate and my experience, which is zero. So now I definitely want to hear what you've been up to these last couple of years in that space.
Yeah. So I started coming out of the military. I went into retail side on the corporate side, or trying to climb the corporate ladder. Pay was really good. It totally just did not align with who I am and what I wanted to do. So I did make a pretty crazy decision at the time. I thought I just quit without having anything lined up. And I was making a lot of money. And then I go into the company that I am in today, and I'm in the semiconductor space. And I am definitely trying to climb the corporate ladder, which will be contradicting to a lot of the stuff that we talk about. But there is an underlying message about climbing the corporate ladder that I don't agree with. And I'm not contradicting that. Does that make sense? I'm not going against that. I'm climbing the corporate ladder for different reasons. But
Perfect.
I do want to start off with saying, like what you said, why does climb the corporate ladder, like why is that like generally a positive thing?
Right, like what's the allure of it? Why does it feel so like, oh, that's that thing to do? Yeah.
And I think it's even more, that idea is even more prevalent in the East Asian culture.
Okay.
And I'm talking like China, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and that Far East region. And growing up, my mom was more on, I guess, like just like a free thinker side, where she didn't necessarily press me to go. That's the typical saying: get good grades in school, go to a good college,
Yep.
do well there, enter a company, and climb up. That's the recipe for success.
That is
right.
yes.
So that idea, even though my mom didn't necessarily push that on me, like living in the Japanese culture until I went to college, that was I wasn't dumb enough not to understand that.
Okay.
And like just you could imagine in that culture, and I'm sure some of the people in the United States could relate to an extent, but in Japan, or at least when I was going to school, I'm talking like elementary school too. Like if I got a bad grade, this is over exaggeration, but I was like, I might die.
Lose a finger. I was gonna say,
Literally,
yeah,
like, so that's not literal, but
yeah.
the idea is like, dude, I'm gonna be screwed if I don't do well. And there's so much pressure, I guess like a social pressure from the family, your peers, just from your culture to do exactly what we just said. Get good grades, go to good college, maybe master's, maybe doctor, whatever, go to a good company, work there for 40 years, and then make a lot of money. You're happy. But that line of thinking is something that I don't agree with.
What you just said, excluding the education piece, but I also feel like it's also known as the rat race. Like, just get into it. Like, work equates directly to money, or I don't know if the rat race really like touches on happiness or fulfillment, but just I loosely hearing what you kind of described makes me think about the rat race. Also, did you have some more to say on that? Oh, okay. I wanted to define. Well, let me back up. You brought in the East Asian kind of perspective on schooling, education, and then that translating to job, which I'm glad you did, because in thinking about this, I'm not gonna say I only thought it was, but part of me was like, is this a Western societal thing? This get this job and climb the ladder, and some part of me just thought this was prevalent in like Western society, but it when I think about it a little bit more, it's definitely not. And hearing you say that also confirmed that it's definitely not a thing. So I always like to ask, like, why. Again, this is not tethered to one continent. This could be a global like construct, but maybe it manifests differently through different cultures, because it's definitely in America. You said it's East Asian as well. You also hear a lot of families push, or a lot of like Nigerian or even African families, like, hey, you have to be a doctor, or they want their children to be in very specific career paths. So I'm thinking, now, because different cultures push these different career fields based on whatever reasons of that culture, kind of make me think like, okay, what is exactly a corporate job? So I did a quick Google definition search to baseline what is corporate. And it says a corporate job typically refers to a position within a large established company or corporation that has a formal organizational structure with a defined department and a hierarchical management system. So just to kind of baseline that of when we say corporate, what that means, pretty much anything that fits that model is corporate, which again exists in America, and I've seen stemming from other cultures as well. So I'm very glad you drew in that kind of like geographic piece. I think that's going to be maybe not important, but we can like kind of stem from that as well in this conversation. With that, again, I kind of want to attack the why, as to why is, I think we like danced around it a little bit already, but why is the corporate narrative what it is? Like, where's that come from? Or even I think, right before we got started, you mentioned the history of maybe, was it the job landscape, but we gotta dive into the why a little bit.
Let me take a crack at it.
Yes, please. Please, sir.
I think, I do feel like the corporations, I think it offers a lot of stability, and stability could be something that cultures value depending on the experience that they had. Like, for example, and this is a little bit dating back, but like if your parents or grandparents lived through the Great Depression, I could imagine that was a horrible economic time to be in. Therefore, their mindset for survival could shift in a way that values stability so much more. right? So with that, that could get passed down to their kids where they're like, hey, like you can take a risk, but the better way to do it is X, Y, and Z. And that X, Y, and Z is the climbing the corporate ladder, a type of advice. And I don't think they mean wrong. They're not trying to get you in a bad spot,
Right.
but like it's not necessarily the right move for everybody. But I do think that it's kind of pushed onto a lot of the people. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like working at a corporation is pretty good. Like there's a lot of great benefits to it, right? Like people, there's so many rebuttals that people I talk about and I hear about online. Is like, oh, like why do the company make so much money while they're like making a profit off your labor? I mean, that's how businesses work, first of all, right?
Yeah.
But they say it in a way that like you're like getting taken advantage of. I guess some people might be, but with what I do and what I get paid, I have zero thought that I am getting taken advantage of, even if they are taking advantage of me, right? And it is interesting because as a company and a CEO, business owner, whatever, that realm, like they are taking all of the risk. Where
Yeah. Okay.
with me, I'm a W-2 employee. I could go in and I'm like, you know what? I'm just not feeling it. I was drinking yesterday. I'm going to give about 20% of my effort. I'm going to be listening to podcasts all day. I'm going to take a 3-hour lunch. And, when 3:30 hits, I'm going to try to go home early. Next day, I'm like, I am getting 150% today. I am grinding for 12 hours. I still get paid the same because I have zero risk. Regardless of how I perform, like the company is still going to be that company, right?
Right.
So there is that benefit in a way that it's so stable. Regardless of the effort that I put in, every 2 weeks, I will get the exact same paycheck. And that is very nice in terms of like financial planning. It's like, I know it's so easy to do financial planning calculation because I know exactly how much I'm going to make every 2 weeks. I know exactly how much I'm going to get in bonus a year. So I do see benefits of the corporate life, I guess, right? It's not all bad.
Okay. Yes, you kind of covered. I had two major takeaways from that. You started with the stability piece and then kind of went into a financial growth piece because, like you said, there's a pay structure. Speaking of that ladder, probably like a pay ladder, like when you're this position, you make this much. To do to this position, you need to do these things. When you get to this next position, you'll make this much. Like it is probably very linear in that fashion, which can be appreciated and like certainly desired, that structure, right? So yeah, it's kind of stemming from that financial piece that you have, that financial stability, also maybe in a sense the financial predictability, maybe given how good you do. But with that growth in the finances and growth in position, because I don't want to undervalue the position and the title, and this is going to get to what I'm getting to, is that maybe like cultural validation or societal recognition, where it's like, hey, you're at this organization or this company, you've grown or climbed to this height, this status, this position, and that comes with some level of clout, or that comes with some level of just recognition, or even what I think is, dare I say, better, is some level of maybe like networking. Like you are now in this status of people or title, so you have access to these clubs, organizations, whatever resource. So I think that could also be certainly the cloud piece is maybe like a fringe benefit, but the networking piece could be a little bit more tangible, or something that you may not get in. I don't know what. I'm sure even non-corporate jobs, if you get high enough, there's or not even high enough, just being in whatever, there's a networking piece. But I imagine high level, I'm not even going to say C-level, but high level positions in corporations, those networks probably come with a lot of very very good benefits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether tangible or not. Yeah. So I think those are like between the two of us 4 things easily that are very desirable. Certainly the ones you said I think are a little bit more desirable, the stability and like the finances, but that are pretty good that everybody would agree on that could come from being in a corporation and certainly like climbing that ladder.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes,
And then
sir.
I can follow up with, my answer as well. And so and you said you haven't been in the corporate world, which is true, but I don't think the military itself is too far away from the corporate life
Valid.
because it's from definition, it is different. But Navy, or we were in a Navy, or
Yeah.
he is in a Navy, I was in a Navy. You still have the departments, you still have the ladder that you
Yes.
can climb. It
Yes.
just not in the corporation form. It's more of a nonprofit with unlimited funding, pretty much. So you can climb it, and it's very similar. So I think you can relate to it. But
Okay.
if you're planning to go into the corporate world, why do you want to climb the corporate ladder? You, Julian.
That's a great question. And I think part of it is multifaceted. Part of it is I have some general interest in, let me back up, not interest. I think there's some alignment piece. So being in that, and I'm glad you prefaced it with how you did, saying that there are some parallels between the military, specifically the Navy for me, and corporate, because a lot of what I am drawing for, reasons why I want to go into corporate, are things stemming from the Navy that I either excelled in or that I appreciated. And that being the ability to work with people, but not only work with people in the way that I do. I was able to be in leadership positions. I was able to work in like small unit or group leadership positions, specifically going towards a certain mission or overarching task that leads to the overall mission. And I either found success in that, or I was like actually genuinely drawn to that. And what I'm coming to find out is that there's a lot of positions in the corporate world that are sought after or that companies need that kind of speak to what I just described. So for that reason, I am kind of excited on corporate, and I think there's an alignment piece with who I am and the piece of the military that I did appreciate and like that I seek in corporate. So there's that. There is a piece of, so in the Navy, right? There's no it doesn't allow you to, your effort or your how well you do does not correlate to your pay, right? There's no, the how you grow. I mean, maybe at a certain point, kind of, but for the ranks that I am at and have existed at, it is very just like you have to meet a time and you have to get these certain qualifications to like make the jump, and it's very structured in that way, and you just keep climbing up. There's no pay incentive, there's no bonuses, specifically performance bonuses, there's no performance incentives, like none of that. I very much look forward to the day where it's like, hey, if you grind or you work this hard or you make this impact on the bottom line, whatever, you can get rewarded for that. There are those type of incentives, and I know that exists in corporate, right? So I look forward to that as well. I look forward to being able to have that little bit more control over my future in the industry that I choose to go in. So those are, I would say, some of the reasons that I look forward to it. The ability to grow, the ability for a higher and quicker financial system, because in the Navy, again, you can't get this high if you don't have this years. It gets very black and white. Like, you have to get X years to get X rank, which equates to X amount of dollars. Whereas in corporate, I think there's a little more wiggle room based on what field you go in, which I have a say over, and how well you do, which I have a say in, how hard I work. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with, I'm in alignment with a lot of the things you said, and that is actually one of the big reasons why I'm glad that I'm in the corporate side now. And we have like an annual performance review cycle in April.
Mm-hmm.
And this upcoming April, I have a very strong chance of getting promoted.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, like you said, in the Navy, regardless if I put in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and perfectly executed every single task flawlessly,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I still need 10 years
Yep.
to become a O4, for example.
Yep.
That's a lieutenant commander in the Navy, just for example, right? Uh, where it also backfires for the organization as well, at least for where performance isn't valued. I don't want to say it's not valued, but it's not impacted in the financial
Yes.
reward system. Because let's not be naive and all rosy. Like, we work because we need money, not that
100%.
we need money or we want money, right? You cannot get away from that. So it is frustrating when I was in the Navy looking at people that was literally like 8 years ahead of me that would wear like, 2 or 3 ranks above me. I'm like, dude, this guy sucks. I don't know why he is doing the thing that he does, but because of it's so black and white, if you are a underperformer compared to the average, it is good for them because you do get to keep climbing up.
Yes.
Even though I hate saying this, but even though if you suck, you can keep climbing up.
I mean,
And that's
call
more,
it is what it
that's
is.
more, yeah, that's definitely more on the officer side. Enlisted side is a little bit more different, but at least in like corporate world, anything really is possible. It's interesting, and I don't know why this particular example came up. Do you know Alexander Wang?
No, no.
Okay, so he is 27-year-old. He might be 28 now. He was one of the youngest billionaires ever. He started a startup regarding AI.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you have heard in the last like 6 months, Mark Zuckerberg from Meta is poaching a lot of the AI people with
Yeah, I
big
know. Oh,
sums
yeah.
of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he was one of those people where
Oh, okay. Okay.
like Meta pretty much bought like half of the company.
Dang.
In return, he's gonna,
Work
not the
for.
CEO obviously, but he's gonna be that lead. He's gonna be that uh head of that department of
Got you.
AI labs or AI
Yeah.
research for Meta.
Uh,
And you could imagine around how much they're going to be making, which is going to be a crazy amount.
insane.
But it's interesting because like let me say this last thing, and we're
Okay.
staying, we're talking about not the corporate ladder, so I just want to say this one thing and move on. But even in the Navy, you can be the greatest, but you will not ever be an admiral as long as you do like 20
Right.
something years, right? So yeah,
Exactly.
that is part of my reason as well. And I don't know, I guess I don't have too much to add because I'm pretty much looking for the same things that you're looking for, leadership opportunities, and like obviously climb higher in the ladder for
Yeah.
more pay. But it's interesting because my main motivator in climbing the ladder is money, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's not the overwhelming majority of
Yeah.
my reason. I would
Gotcha.
say fifth, if all these reasons, leadership opportunity, growth opportunity, financial pay increase, and just looking for fulfillment in the work and work-life balance, everything included, I would say the money piece is like 50% maybe. So
Sure.
it's the
Yeah.
most, but it's not everything.
It's not like 90. Yeah. I got you.
And I believe where people get it wrong, and this is the rebelling piece for this topic
Yes, sir.
of, climbing the corporate ladder is success or happiness or
Mm-hmm.
fulfillment or whatever that variance may be for you that you have heard or had the uh, like a fundamental understanding of,
Mm-hmm.
is that people believe that climbing the corporate ladder means that they're going to be happy and they're going to be fulfilled. And they're just being in this world, like I want to get to a certain level, but honestly, I'm not really interested in going above that level, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Because I look at like you talked about the C-suite leadership, right?
Yep.
Like we have an issue with one of our big customers right now. That's why I'm traveling for work. but it's got into the point. It's a very, very, very big contract and a customer, and our COO is involved in it. Like, I literally talked to him where he is 1, 2, 3, 4. He's 5 levels above me.
Sheesh, yeah.
And like, they're just, I look at his life, and I could almost imagine how much he makes, but looking at the option, or weighing the pros and the cons of it, I don't think I want his life, to be honest.
Yeah.
And there is an interesting study. Do you remember the conversation of, can you buy happiness with money?
Yes.
We talked about, after a certain pay range or line that you can draw, your happiness level with money diminishes as you go higher.
You get diminishing
because
returns, yeah.
it is evident that, and the research is very consistent across various different studies, around 75 to 80K. Up to that point, like, as you increase your salary, you're also increasing your happiness. So you are kind of buying happiness with money. But after that 80K line, maybe it's not inflation adjusted, maybe it's 90 now, I don't know. But after that certain point, like, you may be increasing your happiness, but, like, it's pennies on the dollar that you are increasing.
Right.
Similar to that, there is an upper limit for your emotional, emotional balance, like, just the overall positive for your emotions.
Sure. Yeah.
There is a diminishing factor once you go above a certain pay scale. And it's not the pay. The pay is not the part, because if I was doing the same job, and if I just made more money, obviously that's going to be better.
Yeah.
But the caveat here is, you got to make the assumption that as you make more money, you're in these higher positions, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And there's a study that, and I'm getting this from the New York Times, around 200 to 300K. That's a big range, but
that's very vast.
As you go above that level, even though your pay is increasing, like, your emotional health, is that a good thing? Mental health, emotional health,
both.
That actually diminishes, like, it goes down. And when you kind of think about it like that, why is that worth the money that you're getting? Because,
exactly.
let's say that the 300K was the line, right? Would you rather make 350 or 250? Like, obviously, everyone's gonna say, yeah, I'd rather make 350. But if the 350 came with a lot of the downsides of those positions, whereas emotional stability, a lack of sleep, you are constantly anxious, because it almost becomes like your lifestyle to work at that company, right? Where it's sad, and at least at my level, I think I'm paid very handsomely. But at the same time, I still, like, some weekends, I still get bothered. There's emergency stuff that happens, and I get it. I'm salary. So, like, I will still support.
Sure.
But majority of the weekends, like Friday, I drive home and I don't have to think about work till Monday. Whereas these people above their families, they have to constantly deal with it. And I just don't know if that trade-off is worth it.
That was perfectly put. I love how you frame that conversation. And honestly, I agree, right? I have not been at the level in which I make so much money that I don't, I think I'm getting a resulting lifestyle. No, I won't say like a negative return. That's a bad way to put it. But to the point where I've assumed so much responsibility that it's affecting me negatively, or like stress, or I have to give up so much time that's affecting me negatively. But I certainly think that is not discussed when talking about this corporate ladder. Like, as you said, it's just plainly put, like, hey, this corporate ladder exists. This is what you could achieve, whatever that top rung is, and, like, keep climbing and try to climb till you get there. It's like, well, wait, what comes with that? Because, like, everything comes with a cost, whether literally or metaphorically. Like, everything, once you get old enough, I think most adults will agree with that. Like, everything comes with a cost. And so, but what is that cost is literally what you were just talking about. And I think that's the great question, because at some point you have to give up something that you truly can you put a price on it? And I'm going to use that example you gave with the, if 300K is the line we're going to go with, that defines like after 300K, you know, stress levels increase, you have less time, emotional health decrease, right? What could you do? And this isn't a little question because I could give a bunch of stuff, but like on an everyday life to live whatever you think is a decent, respectable life, 250K and 350K, you can live well within in a lot of places in America too. This isn't one spot with 250K dollars a year. Even if that's for the household, not even to say, like, let's say that's one member of a dual household and your spouse even has, let's say they have 50K salary a year, or they have 100K, whatever. Even if they had 0K salary, I'm confident that a dual household can live off one person's income if that one's income is 250K in most of America.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
again, you know what I mean? Now the question kind of becomes like, is it common that, and I have more to say, but before I get there, like, I guess I'll ask you, B, do you think like people climb the corporate ladder, or they may start for one reason, but do you think it just becomes like almost greed at a certain point, or people just become locked in on the money piece and that kind of blinds to these other aspects of life?
I think for the people that's toxically trying to climb the corporate ladder, because I do want to make that distinction, but this kind of goes back into the lifestyle inflation.
Yeah,
But
I was just about to get there too.
like, as you make more money, the natural, normal human behavior is that you're gonna start spending more, and
Yep.
you're gonna live your life according to your status,
Yep, your life's gonna change.
right?
Yep.
And for example, like, it's hard for doctors to start paying a lot of their medical debt off, and it sounds crazy because, like, dude, they make so much money. This should be very easy to pay off their medical student loan. But you also got to realize, when you're a doctor, people expect some status from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you graduate, you buy that super nice house, you buy that super nice looking sports car,
Yep.
and now you're drowning in more debt. I mean, your income supports it. You're fine. You're going to live a good life, but like, you're just kind of trapped in the system, right?
Yeah.
And I think similar for the corporate ladders, like the climbing of the ladder, as you climb the ladder one step at a time, you're going to start making more money naturally, and your lifestyle increases. And I feel like it's always that game of, oh, let me get to the next step and I'll stop.
Yeah.
But then when you get to that next step, you want a little bit more. And I could relate to that truly, because when I did ROTC in college, so I
Mhm.
already had a guaranteed job coming out of coming
Yep.
out of college. So I
Yep.
commissioned as an officer, and this depends on where you live because you get allowance for housing and stuff. But when I first got out, when I first got out of college and went to Japan for my first duty station, I was making roughly around like 55K to 60K ish. And at least on the officer side, the pay goes up pretty quickly for the first couple years. And by year 4, I was making a very flat 100K. And for the longest time, like, I was like, I just want to get to 100K. Like, 100K is like a very common, I guess, line for people to
Yeah, just
chase, I
six
guess, right?
figures. They
Yeah,
just
six
throw
figure.
out
Yeah,
that
yeah,
like some about six figures.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
But I definitely felt that. I'm like, dude, I'm like, 4 more years and I'll get to six figures. Oh, 3 more years, I'll get to six figures. Let me just get to six figures and I'm going to live a cushy life. Once I got there, I definitely wanted more,
it's like, yeah, oh
right?
yeah,
So from that, they just keep going. You just want, it's close to you, right? It's like the carrot in front of the donkey. Like, it's so close to you, so you want 120. You got to 120. Oh, I want 150. Oh, now you got 150, like 200. That seems like a pretty respectable line.
yeah,
Let me try to get there, right? So I think that's like the toxic side of climbing corporate ladder, one of them. And another point that I do want to bring up is You talked about status within the job, and I think this ties very well into that conversation, where it's also prevalent in the Navy, and I'm sure you can relate with me on that. But I also see that on the corporate side where people's identity becomes their
Ooh.
job title or job
Yes.
status in life, right? And then I personally believe certain people might benefit from that, right? Some people just like they just get like they feel fulfilled by having like status.
Yep.
But I would like to think that like the majority of the population is not like that. Even though that's like preached and part of a lot of the cultures, I would like to think that it's better for people to find happiness and fulfillment outside of the workplace. And that could be anything, where you could have very valuable friends. You have family that you can connect with. You have a wife and kids that you want to take care of. Like, those things are, I think, more positive to have as an identity, as like a husband, a father, uh, a very good friend, someone that donates money to charity, someone that spends their time, I don't know, helping out the poor, or something like that, right? Rather than, oh, I am a doctor. Oh, I am a CFO at this company. That is almost sad to me. It's like, oh, like that's their life. They are dedicating their life to their company. And I mean, they are getting rewarded financially, but for what? Like, money's cool. Don't get me wrong. I like money too. But I think there's much more beautiful things outside of money to derive the fulfillment piece for humans.
Amen. And I think all of what you just said sums up our overarching bubbling point of that, I don't think that corporate ladder is inherently bad, but people want to climb it for the fulfillment of these things that aren't lasting for all the reasons that you said, and I'll maybe try to summarize them. But I think that's why, you're in corporate, I'm looking to go into corporate, but I don't think we're going to get fulfilled from the status that we're trying to reach or that we'll reach, and we're doing it for different reasons. And I think that is where this conversation needs to be analyzed, and kind of why we're having this talk, because I'll just say, I think people climb the corporate ladder for the wrong reasons. And it, I just want to restate it because I think it's such a good point that people are climbing to get these nice things, but as you get higher, you always want nicer things. Like that's the ironic catch. Or people are aspiring to get, I'm just going to get to this point of this dollar amount, whether it's these emotional reasons for this emotional or mental satisfaction. And usually when you get there, those emotions or those mental satisfaction, or that mental limit, it just keeps jumping. So it's just almost like hilariously ironic that people embark on this this long journey, because the corporate ladder is not short. It's going to be, even if you climb it quickly, that the relative quickness is still going to be a large span of time. And in that large span of time, you are giving up these things that are truly, to use your word, beautiful, regarded as beautiful things in life, or just, I don't know, more like substantial things in this journey we call life. And they're giving these things up to climb this ladder, to get to this point that's probably just going to move or get adjusted anyways. And man, I love how you kind of framed that and laid it out. And I don't think people, of course people know, like, there's sacrifices, right? Like, anything goes to say, a quote that I like, anything worthwhile is worth work. I do like that quote because it implies that, like, you have to work to get what you want, or to get places, like nothing is given. But there's a caveat, like, how much are you willing to give to get to these points that we're talking about? And that's where I think the corporate ladder, it just won't be fulfilling. I think fulfillment in some ways is an illusion. Like, the corporate ladder very much, and I've heard called, like, the corporate ladder is a scam. And if you're looking for fulfillment for those reasons, it could be a little scammy. But some things I think that can objectively be true is that you can find growth. You can find financial gain. You can find leadership opportunities. Absolutely. And those are all things I wish to get out of it. But you can't neglect, I don't want to say that, the dark side of it. That's a little that's kind of dramatic.
Yeah.
But that other side is also there, and it comes back to your why. And if that is the fulfillment you're looking to seek, I would just say move with caution.
Yeah. I think there are dark sides too.
Right? Like low key.
Because so we kind of talked about, after, we talked about after a certain point, the emotional side diminishes, like literally decreases as you go up. But at this, along that line of thinking, after a certain point, and I was trying to kind of allude to that with how I was talking about, I get weekends off, it becomes your lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And then it's so interesting because when it becomes your lifestyle, at that point, you are no longer putting in 30 hours. You are no longer putting in 40 hours. And looking at not my manager, not my boss, but a couple levels above, I have a director where I do, I see him face to face, he's not too far ahead where I can't talk to him.
Yeah.
Right? I can talk to anybody, right? But
right.
It's just I'm not gonna go knocking on the CEO's door hey, what's up, man? And I'm not gonna say, hey, what's up, man, to my director, but at the same, it's a weird line where I can still have a friendly conversation with him.
Sure.
But anyway, just looking at him, sometimes I'll be like, dude, I need to get this done, so let me go in super early. And for me, super early is 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because the entire office, we usually come in at 9 or 10.
Heck yeah. That's
But so 7 o'clock is I am an overachiever. All right. So I come in to 7, and I done this maybe 3 or 4 times now. Every single time the director's there. So in my line of thinking, I'm going to conclude that he's there at 7 o'clock every single day.
Right.
And that he's there. We usually leave around the same time, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., but sometimes 6 p.m. ish. But then that's a lot of working hours to be putting in every, literally from Monday through Friday. And I know the things that go around other teams. So I know he's getting dragged into all this other meeting with customers and with the teams, and his weekends are, filled up with emergency stuff. Just kind of stemming off that, I think it's interesting of the working hour piece. I kind of want to, it's a little bit of a derailment, but I do want to include this in the conversation because I find it so ironic. Not ironic. What did I say? Just taking an advantage of from the corporate world. And it's so this is
the history of the working hours piece, or the work day. Yeah. This is good.
So I know legislation is experimenting with other stuff recently, but for far as I have been alive for, the 40-hour work week was a very traditional and normal status.
Yep.
Or status quo, right? And I was looking into where did this 40-hour work thing come from? I didn't know when it came from. So I wrote down a bunch of notes for this. So in the early 1800s and before the 1800s, right? You have I guess factory workers in the 1800s, but before the factories, you can just correlate it to whatever occupation at the time that they were doing. But people often worked 12 to 16 hours a day, 6 days a week, and the break that they would have was on Sunday for religious reasons. If you do the math, that's 70 to 100 hours a week, which is crazy by any standard today.
Yes.
And so, and we go a little bit later into 1817. So almost 200 years ago. And then there is a slogan popularized by Robert Owen. I don't really know who that is, but he came up with this, right? He said, we should be doing 8 hours of labor, 8 hours of recreation, and 8 hours of rest. And I'm like, okay, I understand the basis behind that, because we have 24 hours a day. You have work, your life, and rest. 8 hours each. I could get behind that.
Right.
That makes sense. And then from there, the movement kind of started to make an 8-hour day like a central movement for the labor force, like literally worldwide. And we go a little bit later, you have 1886, where workers were striking for 8 hours a day. It clashed with the police. I think it was like some kind of like a rally or movement or some sort, and that it became very. It didn't end well. Let's say people died, and then that's where like the labor movement like really took off after that point, right? And then you go into 1926 with Henry Ford. It wasn't until Henry Ford where 5 days a week and 40 hours a week became like a actual like standardized practice.
I think I heard that before, but I definitely forgot. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, and then he also like led the charge in influencing a lot of the companies, because he stated that, or he believed that well-rested workers were more productive, which today we know that is true. So that's where it came about. And it's interesting.
That's good.
It's been 99 years since 1926, almost 100. And we are still practicing the same standard that was made 100 years ago. And just imagine the technological advancement that we had since then.
Bro, it's not proportionate. Like all the advancements societies have seen, and we're doing the same. Our labor structure is the same. Red flag.
So for me, looking at that trend, I think it will be very logical to think as technology increases in an exponential form, we could get the same productivity with less hours.
Facts.
Right?
Yes.
And that's even more prevalent as we go on into the future with a lot of the automation that's taking place with AI. It's crazy, but that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
So, and I don't, I'm pointing out the problems without a solution. So I'm doing the easy part. So I don't know what the sweet spot is for like working hours. Like what's the sweet spot? But I feel like 40 hours is a little too much. And I sincerely do mean a little. And I'm talking about like, instead of a 40-hour work week, I could get behind like, so 40 hours is 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I could get behind 8 hours a day, 4 days a week. Or if the job calls for 5 days a week, that's like a very important part of the business, then I could get behind like 7 hours a day.
I was gonna say 35 hours a week.
Yeah, 35 hours a week. Yeah. And so I'm kind of thinking about it from like a day-to-day lifestyle in the office. Is like you're still gonna be there for 8 hours, but you work for 7 and you take a 1-hour lunch break or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or you just literally decrease the time to 7 and you don't have to worry about lunch. But I truly believe that makes sense. And as technology increases, so that means on an individual output basis, you are able to produce more for the company. And if you keep the working hours the same at 40 hours, you are producing literally more for your company. Therefore, in return, you should be getting paid more. But the issue comes about because you look at statistics and it shows that in terms of real growth, we were not getting that. And in recent history, in the last couple of years, that have been going up. But literally I looked at a graph about this. I want to say around since 1980 to now, the real wage growth accounting for inflation is like a couple percent a year. And I know for a fact technological advancement is not a couple percent a year.
Yeah.
That is much, 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 much higher, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it doesn't the work hour piece just doesn't make sense. And I guess trying to bring it back to the main topic, like it already doesn't make sense at 40 hours. And as you climb up with more responsibility, you are expected to be there for far longer than 40 hours because you are in that position where you need to make a decision, making sure that people under you are accounted for, things are getting done. And yeah, it's just mentally exhausting, you know?
Absolutely. Dude, first off, shout out to Henry Ford. And who's the other guy? You said Robert Owens, whatever? Like,
Robert Owens.
dude, he revolutionized like the labor structure. Shout out to them. But we need, who is going to be our modern day figure to shake this corporate ladder and shift the narrative? I mean, yeah, you laid out the kind of facts and or correlated that why we could work less. So no more needs to be said on my end there. But I think that's a great point. And now hearing because I think it is, as you climb up there, you assume more responsibility, and I guess therefore more hours, to quote Uncle Ben from our beloved Peter Parker and Spider-Man. With more power comes great response. So like, yeah, I get it. Like, you're higher, you get more responsibility. It translates to more pay. But I'm a big fan of just, if you get your work done, who cares what the time looks like? Why do we have to be? And I don't know if it's a literal like expectation, like from these corporations that, hey, you're a C-suite level or whatever the job level is, like you must work these hours, or is it just like a social thing, like, oh, you get paid so much more, like you need to be here longer? I don't know which it is, but if the job's getting done, and I certainly get right, yeah, to some level, a new hire is not going to work as much as the CFO or what, like, yes, I agree that probably it should be that way. But both probably could work less, respectively. Like, the new hire probably could work less, or somebody that's more entry level, and the CFO or whoever, COO, you could probably also work less, comparatively. And that's where this corporate ladder does it. I don't know. I mean, this goes beyond the corporate ladder. If you get higher up anywhere, I think it's a bit of a illusion on the quality of life you're going to get as you get higher up, or the emotional, I don't know, release you're going to get, or, yeah, I'm going to be so happy when I just get to this point. I don't know. I think that's a bit of a hoax, but we're just trying to illustrate why. Yeah, man. I think you spoke so well, B. Thank you for laying out the kind of the history of labor, and I'm just trying to expound on. There's so many things and I mean, some of it might be obvious that you'll give up. And you just talked about time, and we talked about some of the mental and emotional things, but also just the social aspect. Like, if you have a social life, or even deeper than that, the relational aspect of, like, you're not going to see your family as much. You're not going to maybe see your kids if you have them as much. And honestly, I don't have kids. I'm not married, but a big part of why I want to get out of the military is to start those aspects of my life, because I know how demanding the military is, and I refuse to be away from my future wife and then future kids that I don't even have yet. But like,
Yeah.
the amount of, like, it has been normalized that you don't see your kids grow up in the Navy. How sad is that?
That is pretty sad.
I'm sure it's like that for like C-suite and above, or whatever. I'm sure that it's common, or certain jobs have that. I don't want to miss my kids growing up, man. That's just something I'm not willing to give up. So yeah, and
If you're like,
yeah.
if you're if you're a CEO of like a small business, you can systemize a business where like you
Yep.
can spend a lot more time with your family and stuff like that.
Correct. You have
But
the
when
autonomy.
you get to the corporation level, that is a big distinction, because even though you're a CEO or a C-suite executive, you are answering to your shareholders, and they want you to
Oh yeah.
maximize your stock returns by a lot.
Right.
And then they're not going to be happy with, like, I think we're doing well as a company. Let's just make everyone's work hours 30 hours a week, and then we'll just coast into it. And that's problematic for the CEO and the C-suite guys and gals, because they get a lot of stock-based compensation. So if their salary is tied to how well the company does,
Yeah.
of course they're gonna do what they can to, make sure the business thrives. And at least from like a legislation standpoint, it would be hard to implement that, because even if we said, hey, the new working hour without overtime is 35 or 30 or whatever, I don't think the actual working hours will change because there is so much competition from international companies, or even like for example, like China and Korea and Japan, they don't care about working hours.
Yeah.
Bro, you better work 80 hours a week minimum. Like, you know what I mean? So as soon
Yeah.
as we start implementing something like that, like it's just companies will just pay overtime and continue to work the same hours because
Yeah.
they need to get shit done. Like, to be frank. Another thing that I think we can learn so much from is we did it in our second episode. Do you remember our second episode?
No, I don't. Oh,
The
we done so much.
five the five regrets of the
Oh, that was
of the
good.
dying.
Yes. Oh, that
So
was good.
it's based on this book. I forgot the author, but she interviewed a lot of people in their
Yeah.
deathbeds, and interviewing them like, hey, like tell me about your life. Like, what is the biggest regret that you had? And overwhelming majority stated that I wish I didn't work as hard at my job and spent time with our family,
Mm.
friends, children, hobbies. And I think that is so powerful. I think that is
Yeah, it's
so
profound.
powerful. If you truly get fulfillment from climbing up the ladder and taking on bigger challenges and bigger roles in pursuit of that money, status, responsibility, whatever it is, if you're truly that person, I have nothing. Like, I think you should keep climbing. I don't think that's a bad thing for you at all. But for those, I would say those are like less than 10% of the population. But for the rest of the 90%, listen to the people that is looking back at their
Yeah.
80, 90, 100-year lives. They are saying, like, it just not worth it. Because I know you updated your purpose of your life definition, which I thought was beautiful in the last couple episodes. But I remember you saying for a little bit, it's like your life is about your collection of your memories and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. That
And
good memory, yeah.
when I think about memories of work, I do have positive memories,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
it's never me performing the work. It's
Right.
always work-based relationships,
Yeah.
maybe, work-based activities that we do with people. It's never, oh, I was
The
troubleshooting with this machine and I was able to solve it. I mean, that's like a good professional resume bullet, but I don't derive happiness thinking about that. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm glad I did that. But I put so much more value into like people visiting me, or I go visit them, or I hang out with my wife, or something that's more than a job. And I just, with capitalism like just taking over, and it's hard to say because I think capitalism is the best out of all the
Mhm.
options, but at the same time capitalism isn't perfect.
Yeah.
So
Long shot.
therefore, like, I feel like the United States is slowly but for sure trending towards that East Asian work culture where it, like, if you don't get into a good job, like, you might as well be in poverty,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And it's sad it's really sad to think about, but that's what the trend is showing. I
Right.
think anyone can be rich in this country, but the rich are getting richer and the poor are not necessarily getting poorer, but like staying stagnant.
Paying poor. Yeah.
So you you can keep going until a certain point, but it's not a forever solution. And just looking at any stat, any graph, we are consistently, since we got off the gold standard, heading that way.
Well, yeah, that's good stuff. I think, with some of these advancements we alluded to, in AI, whatever. I think maybe I can't say, I don't think the corporate ladder as we know it, but like the landscape of work, the job market, things of that, I think may see drastic changes the next couple of years. But the overall sense of this hierarchical structure of climbing, so to say, will remain the same. It'll do it in different ways. Like, I mean, even in COVID, right? Like when working from home was popularized because it was literally a necessity at that point. It was a shocking stat came out that I don't know what percentage of companies or if they were Fortune 500 companies, but a lot of companies saw a productivity go up even with less people working physically, which I thought was interesting. And now as of recently, we've done away with a lot of remote work, but I'm just saying that to say that the landscape, the how we work may look different or whatever, but I think the quantity of work, hard to say if that's going to go away or not. And so with the work, the quantity of work probably like not changing, at least maybe in the near future. I think people need to reassess why they're climbing. Again, is it and reassess, or just take a look at yourself and what fulfills you. Like B said, like if you're those people that kind of want the status or want some of those things, then I may not be talking to you, but really look at like your passion and your purpose and ask yourself what that is. And once you're able to define that, really look at why you're climbing. And those are things in my life I've been doing lately, taking that look within so I can really sculpt the me moving forward and put a why behind it. Because it's easy to say like, yeah, I want to do this and I want to do that, but like really like why do I want to do those things? And it's probably cliche, but I think once people can answer that question or even have a little more clarity on that question, you'll be able to say like, should you be climbing the corporate ladder? But kind of more we're getting at like, how high do you really want to go? I think that's a question that's not asked. It's just like, hey, you need to be climbing the corporate ladder. I think that the layers of that onion haven't been peeled back. And hopefully in this conversation, we were able to peel that back a little bit and shed some light on just insight. Again, a lot of this is just to promote this conversation, whether that's with other people or internally. And that's what it does for me a lot. And that's why I appreciate it to get you thinking about, in this case, it's the corporate ladder and maybe why you're doing it or what's going to fulfill you from it. But that's why this conversation is like so enriching for me and hopefully for everybody else too. But yeah, man, you brought some good stuff on where we're coming from like a labor perspective, and then trying to look at like, where we might be going. But the whole concept of the corporate ladder, I think this was good. I wasn't necessarily like trying to end it. That sounded
no,
like
that's fine.
I don't.
No,
I don't know if
it
anything else
is.
to say.
Yeah, I'm sure I said a lot more than I was planning to say. I
No,
feel
that's
like-
good though. That's
Yeah.
indicative of we're getting somewhere. That was dope. Yeah, man. I mean, shoot, I just want everybody to be happy and healthy and like have true direction. You know what I mean? I feel like that's one thing that it's funny. I was just talking to my girlfriend about this last night. This is definitely like off the beaten path what we were talking about, but her birthday's coming up next week, and I was asking her like, we celebrated
Oh.
early last Sunday, last night, went to dinner, and I'm asking her like, hey, what are you most grateful for as you exit this new year, this last year of life into this next year of life? And that conversation kind of took itself to, well, actually her answer was like clarity. She was like, last year she had the most clarity that she's had, which I thought was like, man, that's such a
Interesting.
right. I was like, that's such a profound answer. Like, I don't know what I was looking for her to say, like expecting her to say, but that was like, wow.
In terms of what? Clarity in terms of what?
So she kind of framed like overall clarity, but like where. So she actually, I'll take that back. She was like clarity on who she is. She had the most clarity she's ever had on who she is. But because she had clarity on the most clarity she's ever had, she's still trying to like whittle that down a little bit. But because she had so much clarity on who she is, that allowed her to have clarity on where she wants to, like, her relationship, i.e. me and her family, like how she's moving, navigating relationships with family members, work, and where she wants to go, where, you know what I mean? She had clarity in other things because it stemmed from clarity within herself. And I bring that up to say, that's kind of ultimately what I want for everybody. And kind of like in a weird roundabout way, like this platform, Rebel Wisdom, we're, maybe bringing or hope to bring clarity on these traditional topics or traditional ways of thinking, and illuminating a new perspective on it to just give people, it helps me think about different stuff and maybe give me clarity on topics, and hopefully it can do the same for others. That's kind of why I was bringing it up. But
Okay.
yeah, I thought her answer was, pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of had me thinking too.
with what you said, I guess, yeah, that is what I would say a lot. I don't say majority, but a large subset of the population is lacking on that clarity because we have been, I don't want to say brainwashed. Brainwashed sounds so negative, and
Yeah.
I know it doesn't. I know the brainwashing act wasn't necessarily meant to be a
Mm-hmm.
negative thing, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we just kind of grew up in a culture where it's drummed into our heads to do certain things
Yeah.
without really considering what you truly want. And I think, if you have clarity and you want to climb the corporate ladder, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just,
Yeah.
there's some, there are going to be some trade offs by climbing the corporate ladder. But at the same time, there's going to be trade offs by not climbing the corporate ladder as well. So it is
Right.
neutral. But so it's having that clarity is able to guide you in a better way rather than just listening to a phrase with no context behind what you truly want.
Right.
Yeah.
Hashtag climb with clarity.
Climb with clarity.
Like that. That's a wrap. I'm ending it there. So I mean, yeah, that's perfect. I think that's all we got. What you think for this week or this episode? And we'll catch you next time with fresh new topic, fresh new perspectives. As always, thanks for joining.